if you read.
Okay, Rangat, I'm reading.
Read.
Nature being a complex unity and not a collection of unrelated phenomena, there can be no unbridgeable gulf between the material existence and this vital or desired world. On the contrary, they may be said in a sense to exist in each other and are at least interdependent to a certain extent. In fact, the material world is really a sort of projection from the vital, a thing which it has thrown out and separated from itself in order to embody and fulfill some of its desires under conditions other than its own, which are yet the logical result of its own most material longings. Life on earth may be said to be the result of the pressure of this life world on the material, inconscient existence of the physical universe. Our own manifest vital being is also only a surface result of a larger and profounder vital being, which has its proper seat on the light scale and to which we are connected with the life world. Moreover, the life world is constantly acting upon us, and behind everything in material existence, there stand appropriate powers of the life world. Even the most crude and elemental have behind them elemental life powers, elemental beings by which or by whom they are supported. The influences of the life world are always pouring out on the material existence and producing their powers and results, which return again upon the life world to modify it. From that, the life part of us, the desire part, is being always touched and influenced. There too are beneficent and maleficent powers of good desire and evil desire, which concern themselves with us even when we are ignorant of and unconcerned with. Nor are these powers merely tendencies, inconscient forces, nor, except on the verges of matter, subconscient, but conscious powers, beings, living influences. As we awaken to the higher planes of our existence, we become aware of them as friends or enemies, powers which seek to possess or which we can master, overcome, pass beyond, and leave behind. It is this possible relation of the human being with the powers of the life world which occupied to so large an extent European occultism, especially in the Middle Ages, as well as certain forms of Eastern magic and spiritualism, the superstitions of the past. Much superstition there was, that is to say, much ignorant and distorted belief, false explanations, and obscure and clumsy dealing with the laws of the beyond. And yet, behind them, truths which a future science, delivered from its sole preoccupation with the material world, may rediscover. For the supramaterial is as much a reality as the existence of mental beings in the material universe.
Yeah. Okay. Quite a big para and very interesting details. We will have a look at it. It will take a whole, but we'll go into details. But basically, what he's saying is here that the chapter, remember, is the planes of consciousness. Okay? Planes of consciousness. So he's saying that all these planes of consciousness are, as we said, not like a staircase clearly defined against each other, but running into each other. I usually use the term like the rainbow colors which run into each other, or like a ramp. Okay, there is no clear-cut division between life, mind, and even supermind. They are all connected and run into each other. Yet there is a gradation. There is certainly a gradation. It's a on your computer, you can do what is called vignetting. That means to say the highest portion of your computer is white, and as it keeps coming down, you put a color, okay, and slowly, suppose you put a red color, then it is pink at the top. Slowly, it becomes darker until finally at the lowest level, it is so dark, okay, that that is the only color that shows. There is this gradation. Exactly in the same way, these planes also run into each other and they are vigneted, if you want. Okay, you can look up the word vignette. Okay, it's used very often in computer terminology. So this is the truth of what he's saying, and he's also saying that all these worlds are not uninhabited worlds. All these worlds are habited. There are denizens, there are residents in these worlds, and they are typal beings. They don't evolve. In the vital world, there are goblins and elves. In the mental world, there are Gandharvas, Kinnaras, Apsaras. Then you go to the overmind level, there are gods, and the gods also have their attendants. Shiva has his attendants, Kubera has his attendants, Indra has his attendants, and not only attendants, but even the female powers, queens and queens. All this is real. It is not something imagined, and there's an interaction between all these worlds. The gods also are interacting with us. Even the elves and gnomes are interacting with us. We'll have very interesting examples, and we'll see that there's a constant connection. In the physical world, man is usually unaware of these things. But when he becomes aware, then this, what's called occultism and spiritualism. Okay, note the word spiritualism. It is not spirituality. We'll come to that. Okay, so this is the background. So now we'll go into details. It's very interesting what he's saying. Nature being a complex unity. It's a unity, but there is complexity. There is also a difference. And the differences are not categorically determinative like clear lines, but they're running into each other. Nature is a complex unity. It's a unity, but it is complex, not simple unity. And not a collection of unrelated phenomena. They are very much related. Matter, life, mind, even supermind is related, but in a very, very remote manner. There is a connection between all of these places. There can be no unbridgeable gulf between the material existence and this vital or desired world. Now, this is also a very interesting thing. We can have a brief discussion on that. But there is a connection. There is no gap between them. It looks like there is a huge gap between matter and life. But actually, there is a connecting link. Okay, we have a very interesting thing. I usually ask our children, what is the connecting link between matter and life? There is something which is sometimes matter, sometimes life. Okay, it's like the viruses that are there. Sometimes they behave like dead matter, and sometimes they behave like living things. Okay, so that's an example. Then you come to the difference between plants and animals. Plants also seem to be totally different from animals, but there's a connecting link, and that connecting link is carnivorous plants. It is behaving like an animal, the plant. It opens, and at the bottom of the flower, there is a glue. And when an insect comes to take the pollen or take the essence or whatever, it falls into that glue, and then the petals close, and it is digested. So even carnivorous plants also, that's a connection between plants and animals. Then what about animals and men? There are very intelligent creatures, chimpanzees, okay, dolphins. All these are very, they are the go-between between animal and man. So there is a continuity. There's very clearly, there is no unbridgeable gulf in this saying. Okay. I go to the next sentence. On the contrary, they may be said, in a sense, to exist in each other. Like the Russian doll that we normally say, they are all involved in each other. As we said also earlier, in the Indian philosophy, we are taught that ether, air, fire, water, earth, each one runs into the other. For instance, in ether, they usually put it this way, but it's not mathematical. Ether at its own level is 50%. The rest of the 4 are there in quarter. Okay, so no, sorry, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. 4 times 1/8 comes to half. So half and half, that is ether at the highest level. Then when you come down, again the same principle applies. In matter, the principle of matter is 50%, and all the others are also involved in matter. 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. This is a way of saying it's not really 1/8, but to explain to you that all are involved in each other. That's what Srimad is saying. Okay, so we go to the next sentence. On the contrary, they may be said in a sense to exist in each other. He's saying in a sense because when we understand things, it's not exactly corresponding to the reality in the world, in the planes of existence. It is slightly different. But anyway, they exist in each other. They exist in each other not like a Russian doll. That means they are fully in each other, not like that, but they sort of merge into the substance of the other in that sense. If you mix two glasses of water, for instance, okay, one is sweet and one is salt, when you mix them, they don't remain separate. They mix with each other. So exactly in the same way, when life is there in matter, it is mixed with it. Okay? In that sense. That's why he's using the word in a sense. All right. So, on the contrary, they may be said in a sense to exist in each other and are at least interdependent to a certain extent. Life depends on matter, matter depends on life. Then matter depends also even at the highest level. It depends on supermind. Okay. Can we say that matter depends on mind, life and mind? Yes, because they are the creating agents. As we keep coming down, highest is supermind. That is what creates all the lower planes of consciousness. So if it is creating, naturally it is connected. It depends on them. We are always connected with the creator. That's why dependent on them. So, on the contrary, they may be said in a sense to exist in each other and are at least interdependent to a certain extent. In fact, the material world is really a sort of projection from the vital, a thing which it has thrown out and separated from itself in order to embody and fulfill some of its desires under conditions other than its own, which are yet the logical result of its own material longings. So let's explain this. It is supermind that creates the overmind, and then the overmind with the supermind's help creates the spiritual planes of consciousness. Then the spiritual planes of consciousness, the, if you want, the self, that creates a universe. And in the universe again, there is mind, and mind creates life, and life creates matter. This is a fact. Okay? You see all these things when you go to the self. You see that this is like that. So there is an interdependence, and there is also a sort of, the creator is more fundamental than the created. So life is more fundamental than matter. It is because life exists that matter exists. It is because mind is there that life and mind exist. It is because supermind is there that the physical world exists. If that is not there, this won't be there. In that sense, interdependent on to a certain extent. Again and again, you see he's using the word in a sense, to a certain extent. Sometimes it may be, may not be. It may be said because there is not that clarity which our mind wants. No? This clarity which our mind wants, very clear divisions we want, like borders between two countries. We want a very clear division. But there it's not like that. He has told you complex unity. So we have to understand in that way. It's a complex unity. And this complex unity, there is difference, but there is also an intermingling. Okay? So note the words. That's why Srinath uses may be said, in a sense, to a certain extent. All these things show exactly what he is meaning. I go to the next sentence. In fact, the material world is really a sort of projection from the vital. So mind creates life, and life creates matter. And it is going inside. And so they say something very interesting. He's saying the material world is really a sort of projection from the vital. It's a projection from the vital. And why? A thing which it has thrown out and separated from itself in order to embody and fulfill some of its desires. If you remember, when we read the last one, that each plane of consciousness has got its own laws. Okay? And in its own plane, it is the most dominant. So life has got desire, action, energy. So it has got desire, so it has to fulfill them. But instead of fulfilling them only in itself, it wants to fulfill them in matter below itself, and it also wants to fulfill itself above itself in mind. In fact, life wants to fulfill itself even in supermind. Okay? There is a willing, and what is that? What is the satisfaction of life in supermind? Ananda. Okay? So, When you are satisfied, there is pleasure. But pleasure becomes ananda. So all these are linked very clearly. What about mind? Mind also needs its satisfaction in the supermind. And that is knowledge, perfect knowledge. So all these are interlinked. So when life wants to satisfy itself in matter, it creates matter to enter into it. And those description is very interesting. Okay, so this is what he's saying. So then life on earth, I lose the page sometimes. In fact, the material world is really a sort of projection from the vital, a thing which it is thrown out and separated from itself in order to embody and fulfill some of its desires under conditions other than its own, which are yet the logical result of its own most material longings. Life wants to satisfy itself in all the other planes also. And in the most material longings, what is the most material longing of life in matter? Obviously, food and reproductive capacity, because it wants to last. So most material longings, both of these, okay, they are longings. Very, very interesting the way he's putting it. Most material longings are obviously food and sex. It's very, very, it is very justifiable what they want. Now I go to the next step.
Excuse me,
Yeah, tell me.
what would be the material longing of the stone?
Of the what? Of the student.
Stone.
Oh, that would be probably stability. Acha, doesn't life want to exist for long? It wants to exist, na?
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
stone is satisfying that longing. It exists for a very, very long time. It lives for a yeah. It's an interesting question that you asked. Right? Yeah, that's it. They're all connected. Each one is wanting to satisfy itself in all the other planes. Yes. Right. Okay. So we go to the next one. Life on earth may be said to be the result of the pressure of this life world on the material, inconscient existence of the physical universe. Now, this is a very interesting principle that he's saying, because it applies also to the supermind. Okay? He's saying that life is there involved in matter. That's true. But will it come out by itself? It may, if there's no other influence. Life is a principle which is superior to matter. So it will emerge. There will be an evolution. But can that be speeded up? It can be speeded up if the life plane above matter puts pressure on it. If it puts pressure on it, then the life will come out more urgently. It will come out more urgently. Normally, I explain to the students in this way, that if you take 2 glasses of water and connect them with a tube from the bottom, okay, they are connected. Then the level of the water in both the glasses is the same. It is at the same. Now, if you press one, what happens? The other one rises. No? The level of the other one rises because this one is going down. Exactly in the same way, if the life puts pressure on matter, the life is likely to rise faster. So that's why, that is the reason why Sri Aurobindo had to pull down the supermind into matter. Then it will become faster evolution. Otherwise, if left to itself, supermind will take another 1 million years to come up. But Sri Aurobindo knows that the pressure of the higher planes on the lower makes it faster. And so that is the reason why, with his force and mother's force, they started putting the pressure of the supermind on matter. And how do they do that? By pulling it. So I used to wonder that since there is already supermind is involved in matter, what is his business of pulling it down? This is the reason. The pressure of the higher makes the lower manifest that higher principle much faster than before. That is the reason. So this is what he's saying here. That's the implication you can see. Okay? Life on earth may be said to be the result of the pressure of this life world on the material, inconscient existence out of the physical universe. Our own being.
Gangadhar,
Yes, tell me.
here I just want to ask a question which you mentioned, like the supermind pressure. So can we say that the avatars which came, the mental and like they came basically to exert this pressure to help in the evolution?
Yes, exactly. But it was mechanical. It was
Okay.
mechanical. It was not conscious. That's why Sri Aurobindo says when man comes in, that pressure can become conscious by yoga. The human being can put the pressure of the, first of all, he goes to the higher level, he goes up, and from there, he can put pressure on the lower. He can do that. Usually, the yogis don't do that. They are very satisfied individually with what they have got and they remain up. But Sri Aurobindo is different. He wants everybody to manifest. He wants everybody to benefit. Why should only one individual? So therefore, he wanted the evolution to go faster so that everybody benefits. That's the reason why he pulled down the manifesto.
So,
Tell
yes,
me.
Ranga, that means the previous avatars also put the pressure unconsciously, we can say. These are words actually, but
Yes,
didn't,
but there's another
yes.
interesting thing. This pressure of the higher on the lower is always done by an avatar. Okay, that's another thing he
Okay.
mentioned. So Rama was an avatar who established the mental principle in life.
Yes,
So he must
Ranga.
have put the pressure. Then he says Krishna put the mental pressure, spiritual
Over mental.
pressure. Yeah, that's right. Over mind into matter, and therefore it became much faster. Now Sri Aurobindo is coming and doing that. So by definition, he is himself the avatar of the supermind. If we accept this principle, huh?
Okay, Rangadhar. So, Rangadhar, basically, we can say that the avatar themselves are conscious, maybe conscious,
Yes,
whatever. But in
absolutely.
general, those who are being evolved, they are not conscious, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. This is one thing which often questioned, when you told that this question came in your mind. So that's why I asked. I thought, no, this is one question which I kept, why the pressure from a higher and why not the evolution? This is exactly what I kept thinking so many times. So I wanted to clear it. Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Rangadhar.
Okay. So
But when Krishna descended on earth, he did not pin the overmind on earth.
no. The principle of our mind was established. The spiritual planes of consciousness was established. Okay? Now it is
So
easy.
it was Sri Aurobindo who then pinned it on earth, no?
That
In,
was
on 24th November,
ah,
he got the Krishna consciousness or the overmind in his own body.
yes. Okay.
So between Krishna was there 5,000 years ago. So it took 5,000 years for the overmind to descend on earth.
The principle was put by Krishna. What Sri Aurobindo did was, in his ascent, he reached that plane of consciousness, and when he reached that plane of consciousness, he was able to pull it down into his own body. Okay, but that allowed him. That was a step, but the ultimate step was his purpose in life. Okay? If you want to go to one level, you have to go through the intermediate levels.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So when Sri Aurobindo put the overmind principle into his own body, the possibility was already created by Krishna.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense,
But
huh?
then what Sri Aurobindo has done is something like really Herculean, because from overmind he jumped to supermind in such a short time.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable what he did. And mankind doesn't even know it. One day they'll probably come to know. This is absolutely a truth, but we must be very careful. We must not beating trumpeting, okay, about Sri Aurobindo because he never wanted. Okay? We are not ready the greatness of. Let them discover for themselves. That Sri Aurobindo is the greatest, and he is this, and he is that. There are many people who feel, this thing imposed on us. We don't want this sort of thing. So it is until they persons interested realize themselves. But we should say loudly to the world that Sri Aurobindo is such a great. Not do that. But Sri Aurobindo never wanted advertisement. Huh? He never wanted publicity. He was very clear. He said, I don't want too many disciples. You can help in the work and those who are ready. So this is something I have heard that when our people out, okay, some of the ashram out and give talks outside, and they say that, oh, Sri Aurobindo is the greatest, and he is this, and he is that, the others are nothing compared to Sri Aurobindo. They are not ready for it. So when they are not ready for that, nothing is on them. In fact, position should never be made on anybody. Let them discover for themselves. That is the. Yeah. But what you're saying is absolutely true, Yasmin. What a Herculean task. Even Herculean is too small a word. Absolutely fantastic what he has done. With mother's help. Yeah. Together, they did that. Yeah, absolutely. And mother not only brought down the Superman, but she was even doing the next work, that is to create the Superman in herself. She was operating, normally a yogi operates at the mental level, or if he is even more advanced, he can make his vital also more pure. Nobody has been able to transform their body. Mother was engaged in that work. Okay. She was, okay, since we are talking, what is meant by mother is working on her body. I briefly just mentioned something and you can think about it. When the Superman, when the Satchidananda manifests, it is darkening itself. No? This we have seen many times. It makes itself limited. And when the limitation is there are two things that happen. The one becomes the many. And when the one becomes many, there are opposites in the physical world, isn't it? When there are opposites, I have a friend, but I also have an enemy. So this principle of attraction and repulsion is very much there in the, even in matter, okay? Even in matter, there is a principle of attraction and repulsion, which are opposites. There is two magnets you put, either they repulse each other or they attract each other. Now, if you come to the life element, the attraction is for many purposes in nature. It can be sex, it can be affection, it can be even be love at the human level. But there is also a fear, okay? A snake and a mongoose don't get along together. They are enemies. So nature very kindly puts fear into the, even in matter, there is fear. So fear is there in every cell of the body. Okay. I went logically one by one, I am explaining to you. So mother was busy trying to remove the fear from her cells, not from her mind or the vital. So imagine the work that she was doing. Unbelievable. The density and the darkness and the ignorance and fear. I gave only one example of fear just to explain, but it becomes very clear. So that is the work that she was engaged in. Transformation of not mind, not vital, but the very cell in her body. And the work was done to a large extent. And the results are there in the subtle world. But one day that result will bear fruit. Okay. So isn't that interesting?
Hello.
Yes, tell me.
Hello.
Yes.
Sri Aurobindo left his body as a supreme sacrifice. But
That's
why
right.
did mother leave her body so early?
Oh, that's an interesting question. But don't forget that mother has lost her ego. Okay. There is no more an individual will. All right. So this is the first thing that one has to understand. No more individual will at all. Individual will comes when there's an ego. Mother has no ego and she is completely identified with the Supreme. And when the Supreme decides that it is not yet time for the transformation of the body, there is still more work to be done. The Supreme decides that, okay, you have carried the work right up to this level. Now the others will carry on the work. So you can retire for the time being because nothing more than that can be done under the conditions of the cosmos. I'll give you one example to show that the conditions in the cosmos have to be absolutely ready for the possibility of the potentiality to become a reality. I'll give you a very easy example, then you would understand. Okay. Leonardo da Vinci 400 years ago thought of and conceived of flight with machines. Okay. Heavier than air machines, he thought of. He had a conception, but could it become a reality? No. Why? Because the world conditions were not ready. And what were the world conditions ready for aviation? For instance, the discovery of light materials. Okay. Aluminium was not discovered then. Then there was also the laws of aviation. The laws of aerodynamics was not known. So all those things had to be known. In other words, the conditions in the physical world had to be realized. Then the Supreme Will can say, okay, now you are ready. Now I will manifest. So aviation comes into being 400 years after Leonardo da Vinci. Exactly in the same way, apply that principle here. No? So the divine is deciding it is time or not yet time. It's not mother. It is through mother that this is being done. Mother is only obeying the commands of the Supreme. She says that very clearly. Okay. And she says, I'm not being told. I'm only being told what work I have to do, but I'm not being told the results. She says that again and again. So now it's clear, Yasmin?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, it's very interesting. Yeah, these questions do come up in the mind, but that's exactly the thing. The world conditions have to be ready. They were not ready. That's why it could not be done. Exactly in the same way. That's why there is a slow progress. And that is why Sri Aurobindo says error is a positive thing. When you make an error, then you know what is to be done rightly. So each error is actually truth in disguise. That's what he says. So they are always mixed with each other. So we should not decry errors. Okay, they are always, they have a function in the world. They allow you to progress. Okay, so what's the time? 8:29. We have 5 minutes more. I'll continue with the. I welcome these discussions because it becomes very clear. You are asking questions, and together we are discussing this. And then I also find the what words to use to explain these things. So I also benefit. Okay, we are in this together. Remember that. Okay. Yeah. So it's very interesting. Okay, so shall I go to the next one? Where are we? Four 26. So now he has told you that there are connections between all these words. Now I read the next one. Our own manifest vital being. Okay, that's the next sentence we have to read now. Our own manifest vital being is also only a surface result of a larger and profounder vital being, which has its proper seat on the life plane and through which we are connected with the life world. So here he is telling you another principle, not only from above, but from inside. Okay. So when the Satchidananda is manifesting, it creates the it goes into involution. So first it creates overmind, then the element mind and intuitive mind and all these one by one, it goes on coming down until finally it creates matter. So he's saying on one side, there's an involution, and in the involution, these worlds are pure. They can be accessed in their purity. But when we are going from down to up in the evolution, there is a mixture. Okay. But in the downward motion, there is no mixture. These worlds can be experienced fully in their purity. That means only the vital, only the mental. You can experience them like that. But when we are going up from here, when life comes out, there's a combination of life and matter. When we are coming to mind, in man, we have matter, life, and mind combined. Exactly in the same way, when you go to spiritual levels of consciousness also, still matter, mind, and life are still there. So there's a connectedness. So that's what he's saying here. Our own manifest vital being is also only a surface result of a larger and profounder vital being. Profounder means he's talking of there's a surface mind and an inner mind. And the inner mind is the mental Purusha. Then there is a surface vital and there is an inner vital, which is pure vital, and that's the vital Purusha. Then there is the outer body, the gross substance of the body, but there is also a subtle substance, which Srivastava calls the subtle physical. Okay, so that's what he's saying here. So it's a combination. Not only is there vertical, but also horizontal, deeper. That also is there. Okay, so moreover, the life world is constantly acting upon us. And behind everything in material existence, there stand appropriate powers of the life world. So there are living beings who are there in the life world. Even the most crude and elemental have behind them elemental life powers, elemental beings by which and by whom they are supported. So what Srivastava is saying is, in the vital world also is full of creatures. And these creatures are known as elves, gnomes, and all these, which were very much known to Europe in the occultist period of their, in the Middle Ages, they are saying. In India, they were always known. Okay, there was no problem at all. We knew all about them. But in Europe, during the Middle Ages, they were experimenting with these beings. Okay? Elemental beings. When he talks of elemental beings,
Excuse me.
yes, tell me.
On which plane do fairies live?
Yeah, it could be the higher worlds, the higher vital worlds, and also the lower mental worlds.
How can you say lower mental world?
Because there's a connection, na? Just now we said there's a gradation.
Yeah, but like fairies, are they in the subtle physical?
I don't know if subtle physical there are beings, because after all it is physical. I'm not sure of that. The subtle physical is physical. Can anyone live only without life in the physical? The atom is living in a sense, but it is not living in the normally the sense that we understand. No?
But Sri Aurobindo is living in the subtle physical, no? He's got a house in the subtle physical.
Yeah, but he has come from below. No? He is not a tribal being.
No. So he can visit the subtle physical and he can visit the super mind and holiday from here to there.
Yeah, his consciousness is such that he can go anywhere he wants. But the subtle physical is stable. Just now we said now that they are all fixed planes of consciousness. So that's the thing. Okay, we'll stop here today because it is already 8:35. Huh? So we stop. We'll continue with this next time. Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.